Hey friends, welcome back to a new Python tutorial. Today we'd like to explore how we can clean up a messy workspace. What I mean by that? Well, in my folder here I have various files, so better say file types. There's a PDF file, there are XLSX files, and there's also PNG and there's a Py file. And this is just an example, but think about you have a folder with, let's say, 1000 files, right? And various different file types. And what we want to achieve is we want to structure the files so to have all files with the same file type in one specific folder. So I want to create a folder, in this case for PDF files, one for Excel files, one for PNG files, and one for Python files. And want to move then all the individual files to the specific folder they belong to. That is the goal. So how can we achieve this in Python? Now, that's a neat little project, and if you want to explore it yourself, then feel free to pause the video and do it yourself. Otherwise, follow along with me and try it out yourself. So, let's get into that. At first, I have already opened Jupyter Notebook here. That's what I will use. But of course, you can also do this in any kind of other editor of your choice. Now, for this, we need to have actually three modules. The first one, in my case, is glob. So I want to import from glob, import glob, this one. Then I need OS, so the operating system. I will import OS. And finally, I will import the shutil module, because this module allows us to move files from one folder to another folder, at least on Windows. Okay. And also the OS and the shutil module, those should be available by default when you install Python. For the glob, I'm not sure, so it might be the case that you need to have installed it yourself, but you can do that via pip. Also, might also be the case that it's included already. Then, of course, you don't have to separately install it. So let me run this, and no issues here, so far so good. And now let's actually go to the specific file path. So in my case, it's this specific folder here. That's called clutter. So I can copy this path here, and I can then go back to my notebook. Just a second, there it is. And then I will change the current directory. So we'll say os.change_dir. So change the directory to this specific file path with the clutter, to this folder. And then, of course, I can list the files. So I can say files equals to os.listdir and simply refer to the current file, the current file path or the folder, so I don't need to specify anything in here. And then I simply print out the files. So I run this, and you can see that now we got all the files in here. We got the XLSX files, the PNG file, the PDF file, and the Python file. So far, so good. Now, what we want to achieve is at first figure out what is actually the specific file type of the file. We can easily do this by getting the extensions. We can call this extensions, or let's do it brief. Let's say ext is equal to, and then we use a list comprehension for that. We say it's file.rsplit, so split from the right side. We want to split by the dot, and then we simply say we want to keep only the first element and say for file in files. So what this does here is simply it goes, it's just a loop, it loops through each individual element in this files list, and then it splits the element by the dot. So in this case here, here, and so on. And then we only keep the extension. So XLSX, PNG, and so on. So that's the goal here. And then we store it in this extensions variable. So if I run this, and also let's have a look here, extension, and run this, we see that now we got only the extensions. So far so good. But of course, we only need the extension once. So because if I want to move, in this instance, all of the Excel files, the XLSX files, into the same folder, I don't need to have it twice in here. So I don't need duplicates. I need to get rid of them. I only need the file type in this list once. And a way to do it would be to use simply a set. So equals to set, which is built in Python, and I can say ext. So I override the extension variable, and then I take a look at ext again, And I would see that in this case that I only have now the XLSX in this case only once. And the other ones here also only once. Please note that it is a set. That's why you have those curly braces in here. So it's not a dictionary, it's a set. So far so good. So we got the extensions. And now we basically will create directories. So we say, in this case again, I'm using a list comprehension here. Say os.make dirs. So don't forget the S here, make directories. And we say, in this case, directory will be E for E in ext. So that means that we will create a new folder for each of those names. So if I take a look at my folder one more time here, that's what it currently looks like. You can see we only have the individual files here. But as soon as we go back to the editor here and we execute this command line, we will see we got none as an output here, but that doesn't matter. What we will see is if we go back in the folder, that now we have a folder created for each of the different file types. So that's the first step. And the next step would be that we move the individual files into the folder they belong to. And to do this, again, I'll go back in here and I will do it in a new line. So by the way, you could also put all of this in one cell if you want to do that, if you work in Jupyter, but I simply do it here in several cells and try to explain every step. So now we need to loop through the files. So I say for file in files again, for file in files. So that's my first loop. And then I will have an inner loop. And I say for E in this case, the extensions we have, so ext in this case. And then what I want to do is I want to again split the file. So I say if, using a condition, if the file dot rsplit, and again I'm splitting by the dot, and I want to have the first element. So I want to have also the extension again. And what we basically do is we at first go through each of the files we have, we split it by the dot, then we see, when we take the extension, we see what kind of extension we have, and then we compare the extension with the specific folder which are available. And if the folder name is the same as the extension, then we move the file into the folder. That's the idea. So that's why we go through each of the files, and then we loop through each of the extensions, which are these ones here. Then we split the file to figure out the extension of the file. And then we say, if this is equal to, in this case, if this is equal to E, so basically to the extension, then we will use the shutil, now this module, and then we say we want to move the file, so move the file, and where do we want to move it? Well, into E, right, into the folder. So this is it, and now let's actually execute this. And let's now go to our folder, and we see all the files are now not available anymore in the specific folder. But if you go into one of those folders here, for instance, if I go to the Excel folder, I can see the Excel files inside. If I go to the Py folder, I can see the Py file inside. And the same is true for the other folders in here. So that's what we did here with the code. We at first went into the folder itself, we figured out what kind of file types there are, and then we moved the individual file types into a folder for this file type, which we have also created within our Python script. And that's it actually in here. So it's a short, neat little code, but it allows us to move the files around on our file system. So it's kind of interesting, and I think it might be helpful to some of you, so hopefully you enjoyed it. As always, if you liked it, then please give the video a like, and also subscribe to the channel if you have not done so far, and stay safe, and hopefully see you in the next video. Until then, best guys.